You know, I always forget how dependent I am on technology until technology doesn't work the way it's supposed to. And right now, X is down. Intermittent outages on Elon Musk's X platform, which I got to be honest with you, is surprising and also not at all surprising. Shocking, but also not in the least bit shocking. Because not only is Elon Musk one of the most you would say technologically savvy people, one of the people who understands the necessity, if you will, of constantly being up and working and making sure that everything, all systems are go. He is one of the most efficient technological geniuses we've ever had in this entire planet. So it's shocking that his entire X platform would be experiencing intermittent outages for hours now, but also not shocking because Elon Musk has simply become one of the most hated men on the entire planet. It's really, maybe that's why he wants to go to Mars. maybe that's why Elon Musk is like, you know what? I gotta get out of here. I got to go to Mars because everyone on Earth is starting to hate me. What's up? This is Kaye Saves the Republic, and we are very excited. We're very excited that you're here. Hopefully you're here. Hopefully the time change didn't mess up your circadian rhythms too much to the point where you're like, oh crap, I'm an hour late, or I'm an hour early, or I'm an hour. I don't know, an hour, whichever way it is that messes everybody up. But we're praying. We're praying that this is the last time we have to do this whole spring forward, fall back crap. Donald Trump announced last week that it's a 50-50 issue. You know, it's a 50-50 issue, and that's why he has not yet signed an executive order dismantling permanently daylight savings time. He said it's really weird, but half the country wants it this way, half the country wants it that way.
Clocks are going to spring forward on Sunday. When are you going to get rid of daylight savings time?
Okay, are you ready? So, this should be the easiest one of all, but it's a 50-50 issue. And if something's a 50-50 issue, it's hard to get excited about it. I assume people would like to have more light later, but some people want to have more light earlier because they don't want to take their kids to school in the dark. And it's a little bit one way, but it's very much a 50-50 issue. And it's something I can do, but a lot of people like it one way, a lot of people like it the other way. It's very even. And usually I find when that's the case, what else do we have to do?
What else do we have to do? Well, how do we make it not a 50-50 issue? I don't understand why Donald Trump's worried about the 50-50 issue. He's won. He's in his second term. Do whatever you want. I mean, you're doing whatever you want with everything else. You're doing whatever you want with the USAID and with Doge and with the border and with the economy and with tariffs. You know, I mean, like, who cares? Who cares what the 50% say? Just pick one and end it. I feel like this is one of those issues where people will be able to adjust either way. If you have it lighter longer, then the people who are like, oh, but it's dark when my kids go to school will either A, turn on the lights, or B, push their local school boards to change the time that school is in session. I mean, it just makes sense to me. School, and I mentioned this last week, can be changed. You can change the beginning time of school. You can't change the sun. Not yet. Elon Musk is working on it. But look, this whole thing with X going down today, it's really, I'll be honest with you, it's going to interfere a little bit with the production of my show because typically sometimes what I do is, and by sometimes I mean every day, I go to X, I scroll through, I pull some video, I pull some information, I go, oh, that looks good. And then I regurgitate it on this program. Luckily, I was able to do a lot of preparation before X went down, but this is just the latest in a long line of what I believe are attacks on Elon. And there's no confirmation that this is an attack. If you go to X right now and you can't load a website or you can't see somebody's feed or you can't watch this live stream, if any of that is happening, it doesn't mean that Elon Musk is being attacked. But I have to imagine, I'm going to say 90% of me is sure that this is some kind of attack. This is some kind of hack job from some liberal outlet that is so furious, just so upset that Elon Musk is cutting government jobs. Some agency that's just so upset that Elon Musk is inserting himself in the government at the request of the President of the United States, by the way. This could be, you know what? This could be Marco Rubio's doing because according to the New York Times, Marco Rubio yelled at Elon Musk in a cabinet meeting. I don't know that I've ever seen Marco Rubio yell at anybody. That's how I knew that this reporting was fake news. I knew it was a fake report that Elon Musk and Marco Rubio got into a huge kerfuffle because Marco Rubio has never yelled at anybody. He's the nicest guy in the world. Everybody loves this guy. I mean, Marco Rubio was confirmed 99-0. That's how much people love Marco Rubio. And I don't think that Elon Musk is going to be any different. What I think happened is the New York Times got wind of something, or the New York Times took something and ran with it, and Donald Trump and company had to come out and say, this is all just a bunch of BS. Donald Trump, in fact, on his Truth Social mentioned Marco Rubio and Elon Musk love each other. I mean, not, in the way two men can. And that was the end of that. But I believe it's some kind of coordinated attack because Elon Musk is racking up the enemies. And it's not just, I mean, that's the other thing too. It's not just when you look at X, it's not just when you look at these other platforms, but it's also Teslas in general. Teslas in general are now being attacked. There was a Tesla charging station that was lit on fire. It was. I want to see if I have that. I want to see if I have the article. I had the video, but it was on X. But there's a Tesla charging station that was Molotov cocktailed, which is that's pretty intense, man. When you start tossing Molotov cocktails at some Tesla charging stations, you are seriously angry with Elon Musk. Hang on, let me just see if I can find this charging station attack. There was another instance in New York City where, here it is. Look at this. Here it is right here. Molotov cocktails, arson, and graffiti. Tesla facilities attacked in wake of Elon Musk's role in the White House. Graffiti on a Tesla dealership sign. Molotov cocktails thrown in another dealership's lot. Tesla charging stations set on fire. Across the country, the electric vehicle company's facilities and vehicles are being hit with protests and violence over Elon Musk's role in the Trump administration. A wave of anti-Tesla protests and attacks have occurred as Elon Musk takes a leading role in President Trump's cost-cutting force, the Department of Government Efficiency, or DOGE. In recent days, there have been a number of peaceful, yet fiery, Tesla takedown protests across the U.S., but there have also been several violent incidents that led to arrests. Look at this. It's over. It's crazy. January 29th to February 11th, police in northern Colorado arrested Lucy Grace Nelson after the 42-year-old allegedly caused between $5,000 and $20,000 in damage to a Tesla dealership. According to police, Nelson vandalized the Tesla dealership by spray painting Nazi under the dealership's entrance sign and started small fires on the lot by igniting Molotov cocktails inside vodka bottles. Nelson was charged with malicious destruction of property and remains in custody. March 3rd in Maryland, graffiti was found at a Tesla dealership a day after demonstrators gathered to protest Musk. The graffiti said, "No Musk." That's really not very creative. With a sign that resembles a swastika. March 4th, police in Massachusetts reported several Tesla charging stations that were intentionally set on fire. March 6th, a 39-year-old man was accused of vandalizing several Tesla vehicles with stickers of Musk in the Boston suburb of Brookline, calling it free speech. March 6th in Portland, Oregon, at least 7 shots were fired at a Tesla dealership on Thursday, damaging 3 cars and shattering windows. March 7th, at the same Tesla dealership, allegedly vandalized by Nelson, North Colorado police reported an arson. March 8th, over 350 protesters gathered in New York City at a Tesla showroom in Manhattan as part of the nationwide Tesla takedown protests. 6 arrests were made, 5 for disorderly conduct and 1 for resisting arrest. I mean, it goes on and on. There was another guy who was chasing down a family as they were driving around peacefully in the city of New York in their Tesla Cybertruck. He was running after them. He was banging on the glass. He was flipping the bird. It was really, really wild. So when you look at all of the attacks on Elon Musk, all of the hatred toward the Tesla founder, and when you look at the attacks on Teslas themselves and Tesla dealerships and charging stations, again, it leads one to believe that this is some kind of coordinated cyber attack on Elon Musk's baby, aka the X platform. And I, for one, am not a big fan because I am what I like to consider a power X user. Here's the report from somewhere, from Tom's Guide. X Twitter down for a third time. Live updates on the massive outage. Users all over can't access the social network again. That's an awkwardly written headline. It looks like X has some significant issues for a third time in one day as users once again reporting problems logging in and viewing the popular social media service. More than 40,000 down detector reports poured in from users during the second outage, stating that they couldn't even get the X website to load, and it's spiking again for a third one. A quick report spike occurred earlier today, but the issue was resolved quickly. However, the second outage saw a much higher jump, and while it was resolved quickly, a third outage appears to be underway. Now, if you're using X, you can potentially pull up your own, well, maybe not, pull up your own profile, maybe pull up other profiles, but it is intermittent for sure. And as you can see right now, I am unable to get onto the X platform. Incidentally, trending on X right now, X outage sparks global discussion. Users react to Twitter's downtime. So at least Twitter's up to date on the problem with Twitter, or X rather, as it's now referred to. In the meantime, while we're waiting for X to come back, and while we're waiting for Elon Musk to make some full report as to how scandalous this is and what's going on with this entire system and why X seems to be exploding, if you will. While we're doing that, we're going to, there's a bunch of other stuff that has been going on. Good news in Washington, D.C. Mayor Muriel Bowser has caved to the Trump administration, and she is dismantling or removing the Black Lives Matter ground mural, or I don't even know what you would call it. But the big lettering, the words on the street that said Black Lives Matter for years in was it Liberty Plaza? They're being removed because Donald Trump said, you got to remove them, lady. And the Department of Transportation may or may not have threatened federal funding. Now, I'll be honest with you. I thought this was just painted on. But apparently it was not. Apparently, you can see there's crews working. They've got all kinds of machinery and sledgehammers. And this is a bigger mess than I thought. I thought they just took some yellow paint and they threw it down on the ground and it said Black Lives Matter. But this is intense. These are installations, it appears. These were installed lettering, kind of that like heavy vinyl, the kind of stuff that they do advertising on. Here's another angle of it. You can see just a massive cleanup operation underway. And while, yes, it's nice that they're removing that lettering and that divisive phrasing from our nation's capital, from the streets of our nation's capital, it is also wild to think of the amount of money and the cost and the expenditure that went into not only putting this down and maintaining it, but now look at all the removal. I mean, you got crews working around the clock. You're shutting down the middle of the city for God knows how long. This is just a couple blocks from the White House. And I don't know if you know anything about DC traffic, but DC traffic is pretty bad to begin with. But Donald Trump went to the mayor and said, look, we need to beautify the city. We need to make the city beautiful again. We need to make it the glowing capital that is the envy of all capitals around the world. And your Black Lives Matter sign, it's dated, it's divisive, nobody wants it there anymore. I'm going to need you to clean it up. Or A, I'm going to take over governance of Washington, D.C. Or B, I'm going to shut down all of your transportation funding. Or you know what? Both. Donald Trump basically was going to federalize the District of Columbia and clean it up as he saw fit. So instead of doing that, Muriel Bowser said, okay, fine. We had our fun. We'll remove it, and all is right with the world again. So Black lives, look, and Black lives still matter. So do white lives. So do Latino lives. So do female lives. All the lives matter. We're just not gonna sully our capital city streets anymore with these massive logos, which once again, we all know was just a slap in the face to Donald Trump the first time around. It was installed 2 blocks from the White House just because they were annoyed at Donald Trump and they were trying to make some kind of political statement. Well, look who won out. Look who won out in the end. Speaking of political statements, the Democrats have really just taken to cussing. That's like their new thing. Cussing is the new thing. In fact, I was back on Newsmax this morning for a bit with their morning show. And one of the things we discussed was how the Politico wrote a story. And man, when the Politico writes a story about the Democrats, it's kind of negative. It's a problem. But the Politico has noticed what we've all noticed. And that is how foul-mouthed and disgusting and just vile the Democrat Party has become. These people have no intelligent discourse left. They have no intelligent debate. They don't have any legislative properties or principles or ideas that would make America great again. So what do? Just cuss. Just swear. There's dropping F-bombs and S-bombs and all kinds of things. Jasmine Crockett is the worst. This woman who, I guess she wanted to be an influencer, but it wasn't working out, so she ran for Congress, and now she's world famous. She's the worst perpetrator, and we talked a little bit about this right after Donald Trump's speech. You know, the one where Al Green had to get thrown out because he wasn't cussing. Which, I mean, I guess that's the silver lining, was that Al Green was not cussing in his outburst at Donald Trump during the joint session of Congress, but he was still being very disruptive. But anyway, Jasmine Crockett is right after her. She's the one that just started dropping foul filth bombs.
What is happening? Like, this is not America. This is a terrible nightmare. Somebody slap me and wake me the up, because I'm ready to get on with it.
Yeah, and nobody took her up on the offer, which still baffles me. I bet, and in hindsight, a lot of people also would have done that. But then there was also, do you remember Maxine Dexter? You may not know who Maxine Dexter is. She's a freshman congresswoman, and she's from Oregon. And earlier this year, she had probably one of the funniest. I mean, you want to talk about misspeaking. You want to talk about meaning one thing but saying something totally different. She tried to use some profanity to get her point across about how much she hates Donald Trump and how much she's going to try to thwart his efforts. But because, you know, she doesn't cuss a lot, apparently, she really effed this one up.
I don't swear in public very long, but Trump.
And that of course went viral. And then she goes on to say, please don't tell my kids I said that. I'm pretty sure your kids saw it. It was everywhere. It was TikToked. It was Instagrammed. It was YouTubed. It was Facebooked. It was WhatsApped. It was even LinkedIn'd. That thing was everywhere. This poor old liberal mom from Oregon who gets elected to Congress and thrown up in front of a microphone and says,
I don't swear in public very long, but Trump.
I mean, that's which, by the way, again, I don't want to say anything bad about. I'm not trying to, you know, say anything bad about anybody or their looks, but that's a threat. If Donald Trump came face to face to her and she was like, okay, now we're going to do this, I'd be like, whatever you want, lady, just leave me alone. Just leave me alone. But again, it isn't even these new freshman Congress people who are trying to make a name for themselves, or these millennial whack jobs like Maxwell Frost and Jasmine Crockett, who come into Congress and they're like, we're all young and we cuss and we're going to dance in the hallways to the Kendrick Lamar and all that other junk. That's not it. It's not just them. It's the elder statesmen of the Democrat Party. It's the Chuck Schumers. Chuck Schumer is probably, let's see, he's the, he is. Chuck Schumer right now is the highest ranking official in the Democrat Party. They don't have anyone in the White House. They don't have the majority leader in the Senate. They don't have the majority leader in the House, or the Speaker of the House. So they have, Chuck Schumer is arguably the highest ranking Democrat in the country. He's the minority leader of the Senate. He's been the majority leader of the Senate in the past. He's been there forever. He's the elder statesman of the left. And even he has taken to the lowest common denominator. Even he is cursing up a storm. You may remember that video that was recorded by every single Democrat from the same script and released almost simultaneously, that started with an S-bomb.
Shit that ain't true. That's what you just saw on the screen.
That's Chuck Schumer. That's a guy who is supposedly a serious politician. This is a guy who railed against Donald Trump. This is a guy who called Donald Trump unfit for office. This is a guy who called Donald Trump despicable and deplorable and dirty and nasty and a sexual predator. This is a guy who said, we cannot have Donald Trump anywhere near the White House again. We need to bring back honor to the White House. And here he is on social media, dropping filth, foul S-bombs.
Shit that ain't true. That's what you just saw on the screen.
It's like the entire party got together and said, okay, should we fight Donald Trump with a legislative agenda that we can sell to the American public and make them believe that our way is better than Donald Trump's? Or should we just start cussing? And they were all like, I'm up for cussing. Cussing works for me. And now that's what their plan is, I guess, moving into. Look, the midterms are right around the corner. I know, because I got big plans for the midterms. The midterms are in 2026, and that may seem like it's a long way away, it is not that long. It is not that far from now. You've already got candidates that are throwing their hats in the ring. Vivek Ramaswamy has already announced, hey, I'm running for governor in Ohio. Byron Donalds is like, I'm going to run for governor in Florida. That's 2 years from now. And they're already making plans. Jasmine Crockett has a guy who's already challenging her in Houston, Texas. And there are even some incumbents who are going to be facing some challenges in the primary and in their general elections in 2026. That's the way that it's going to be. That's what's going to happen. And the Democrats need to get together and come up with some kind of plan other than filth, foul, filth, S-bomb, fudge, ripple, cuss, cursey, curse. Let's F Donald Trump. I don't know. I mean, I don't know if that's a winning strategy or not.
I don't swear in public very long, but we have to Trump.
I mean, I just, that poor woman, that poor woman's family. That's because I'm going to be honest with you. Probably for her entire life, that's all she's going to be. I'll be honest with you. When I meet her in Congress, I'm gonna have a couple things to say for sure. But look, speaking of Donald Trump, none of this is stopping Donald Trump. Donald Trump is moving forward on his agenda, and every single day there is just more and more to celebrate and more success. And one of the things that we saw, or a couple of things that we saw over the weekend, is that Donald Trump on the Sunday shows was making his case. He was on Air Force One talking to the media. He was on with Maria Bartiromo. He had all his cabinet out there, and they were doing their due diligence, and they were talking to whomever would listen, and they were making the case for Donald Trump's agenda. And there's a couple big things happening this week that we're really paying attention to and that we're making sure we're on top of. And the first one, of course, is this continuing resolution. There's a clean CR in the House of Representatives because funding ends for the United States government on the 14th, which is, 10, 11, 12. It's Friday. So if we don't have a CR by Friday, or if we don't have any kind of bill by Friday, then funding for the United States government runs out again. And there will be a government shutdown again. And I know what you're doing. You're thinking, God, didn't we just have this deadline like 6 months ago? Wasn't there just the threat of a government shutdown 6 months ago? Yes, the answer is correct. It wasn't even 6 months ago. It was right before Christmas. And the Republicans were petrified that the government was going to shut down and they were going to get blamed for it right before Christmas. And the Democrats were running around trying to get the Republicans to shut down the government because they thought it would give them political capital. And so in the end, they came up with this short-term spending, budget gap measure, which kept things going till March 14th. Well, you blink and all of a sudden it's March 14th. And so this continuing resolution is coming to the floor, I believe, tomorrow. And the question is whether or not it's going to be voted on, or it'll be voted on, but voted for by the Republicans. Republicans, remember, have the slimmest of slim majorities, and the Democrats may do whatever they can, which could mean working with Republicans to try and thwart this spending bill. And Stephen Miller from the White Deputy Chief of Staff was on with Fox News, and he was explaining why this is probably the cleanest continuing resolution we've ever had, and any effort by the Democrats to block it should be seen as them shutting down the government for political purposes.
Well, it just shows you that Democrats don't have a vision for this country, don't have a vision for the future. They've become totally radicalized, and all they have to offer is unthinking, unfeeling, angry, senseless opposition, as evidenced by their shameful conduct that has now been much discussed around the world at the State of the Union, where all they could do was oppose every single proposal that President Trump had, every victory that President Trump had for America that are supported by 80% of the American people, like keeping men out of women's sports, refusing even to stand for a child who overcame and is in the process of fighting brain cancer, refusing to stand for the victims of monstrous crimes committed by illegal aliens, refusing to stand for a child who lost his parent and who is now going to be going into West Point. And the examples are endless from that evening. And so now you have President Trump putting forward what's known as a continuing resolution, It's basically a clean government funding bill. What does that mean? It means it just freezes current funding. So it adds no new spending. It creates no new programs. It doesn't have any new slush funds. It just says we're going to continue current spending while we work on a budget plan for next year, and that's when you can implement all of the new reforms. In Washington, it has never happened before, never, that a government was shut down over a clean government funding bill. This never happened before. Anytime a clean government funding bill has been on the table, government has been funded. So if Democrats are going to try to shut the government down over a clean funding bill, it would just demonstrate that they've become as hopelessly Marxist and crazy as we all know they've become by watching their behavior.
Okay, so with the Democrat. Look, the Democrats literally have nothing to lose. They've painted themselves as these whack jobs. They painted themselves as these nutcases. The Democrats have already created this idea or this visage, if you will, of who they are. And who they are people that just don't care about America. They don't care about fiscal responsibility, and they'll do pretty much anything to get their way, including cussing, pulling fire alarms. There's any myriad. They'll attack. They'll threaten violence. Oh, Jasmine Crockett, by the way, she posted on her Facebook page on her Instagram, I believe it was, a stick figure image of it's two stick figures beating to pulp a third stick figure, and the two stick figures that are doing the beating, she's labeled AOC and Jasmine Crockett. And the one getting beat, she's labeled Republican. So she's posting these little GIFs online that show her and AOC beating up Republicans with physical violence. That's what the Democrat Party's become. So really, if they shut down the government, it's just their typical MO. That's just the way they react. I don't think anyone would be surprised. If the Republicans, however, do it, or if the Republicans have a hand in doing it, then it becomes a big problem for the Republicans, especially heading into the midterm elections, which we said are right around the corner. They're a lot closer than you think they are, and the Democrats need to retain control of the House of Representatives. Otherwise, they're going to have a big problem. So Mike Johnson is trying to make sure that this continuing resolution goes through, and he's not the only one. President Donald Trump has thrown his weight behind it and said, "Look, Republicans, you know what to do. Here's the play. I've drawn up the play. You got to go run with the ball."
This week, government funding will run out, and House Republicans have negotiated and led a clean continuing resolution, which President Trump fully supports. And he is counting on Republicans on Capitol Hill to work together to unite to get this clean CR passed. On November 5th, the American people gave Republicans and President Trump a historic, overwhelming mandate to govern. And it would be a gift to the Democrats to allow them to shut down the government and therefore shut down the momentum that President Trump and Republicans have built over the last 7 weeks. So this clean CR, we need it to pass. It effectively curbs spending, freezes spending, while allowing the government to continue to function, allowing ICE agents and Border Patrol to continue their mass deportation effort, allows President Trump's cabinet to continue to identify waste, fraud, and abuse across the federal bureaucracy. So the president supports this CR, and we're hopeful and expect Republicans to get on board so we can pass it and continue moving forward, implementing President Trump's agenda.
Now that's wishful thinking for sure. The Republicans don't always get on board. There's always a couple that are like, you know what, I'm not on this Trump train because it involves, well, more spending. This is not a budget, of course. This is a continuing resolution, which means we're not going to change anything. We're just going to freeze everything. And that doesn't mean we're going to stop spending. It just means we're not going to spend any more than we've already committed to spending. We're not cutting the budget, but we're not going to increase the budget. And there's good and bads to both sides of this issue. For example, Thomas Massie, who most people know as the guy that always votes no. In fact, he voted no on the last budget bill. Thomas Massie wrote on X, which I would show you, but it's down. Thomas Massie wrote on X something along the lines of, "Unless I get a lobotomy on Monday," meaning today, "which makes me forget everything I've learned over the last 12 years of serving in Congress, I'm a big solid no on this CR." Because what it means is that the Republicans are going to promise to do something, but then they're just going to blow through it and they're going to spend whatever they want to spend anyway. So Thomas Massie is a no. Chip Roy, another fiscal hawk who usually doesn't like to pass any resolutions without any kind of spending cut, because there's two ways to go. You can pass a budget and you can offset the cost. So for example, if you're spending something new here, you have to offset that cost by not spending here. Kind of like if you want to buy a Rolex or a new house and you've only got $100,000 for, you've got to make a choice. Do I put a down payment on a new house or do I buy a Rolex? Those are your two choices. You can't have both unless you go out and make more money. The Republicans don't do that. They want to offset the cost. Well, Chip Roy has said, look, in this particular scenario, because we have Doge, and Doge is the great unknown. This is what makes this different than any other CR before. No continuing resolution, no clean CR, which froze spending, ever came along or ever had alongside of it Doge. Elon Musk was never a part of previous CRs. So what Chip Roy suggests, or what Chip Roy is arguing, is that if you have a continuing resolution that is clean and you freeze spending, then you're going to have Elon Musk come in and he's just going to hack away at all this other government waste and all these other government programs, and he's just going to slash away. So it's a win-win because the Democrats get to keep spending. The Republicans don't have to say that they don't have to come up with offsets, and Doge will be the bad guy until they can get some kind of budget together. So you're going to have Thomas Massie who votes no. That's a given. He's dedicated to the proposition that he is not there to spend any more of his constituents' money, and he's there to demand that there's offsets. He's not the only one, by the way. There's a handful of others. Whether or not they will step up this time and say the same thing remains to be seen. Chip Roy, who is one of those who typically, battles against these kinds of expenditures, is now saying he sees a way to reconcile it with himself and his voters because Doge is doing the cost cutting that a budget typically would. So we'll see what happens. If Thomas Massie's a no, this thing can still get through. It'll just be very, very difficult, and no other Republicans can jump ship. Now, here's the problem. Anybody who votes along with Thomas Massie, or anybody who says no, will become an instant celebrity. And when you're swimming around in a pool with 434 other people, you always try to find some way to maybe make yourself a little more famous, a little more well-known. You always try to find a way to get that spotlight on you or a camera on you. You want to get an interview on Fox News or on CNN. And saying no to something that most of the Republicans and Donald Trump support is a great way to do that. So I imagine you're going to see a couple of other Congress people say no. You also, look, when you say no to something that Donald Trump comes out in favor of, and Donald Trump wholeheartedly came out in favor of it, you heard Caroline Levitt right there say Donald Trump is in favor of this. Donald Trump expects the Republicans to also be in favor of this. Donald Trump expects the Republicans to get on board and vote for this CR so we can continue with the border, so we can continue with all of our promises, so we can institute no tax on tips and no tax on Social Security and no tax on overtime and all this other great stuff. That's what Donald Trump expects. He wrote about it on Truth Social. The House and Senate have put together, under the circumstances, a very good funding bill. All Republicans should vote yes next week. He did put in there please, by the way. So he's not just demanding. Great things are coming for America, and I'm asking you all to give us a few months to get us through to September so we can continue to put the country's financial house in order. Democrats will do anything they can to shut down our government, and we can't let that happen. We have to remain united. No dissent. Fight for another day when the timing is right. Very important. Make America great again. So what happens is, if you're a no, if you're a Republican and you're a no on this bill, you're going to get some FaceTime on Fox News. You're going to get a couple of interviews on CNN, and you're probably going to get a phone call from the president. And you may actually even get something for your no vote. You may get a bone thrown to you for, I don't know, an invitation to the next party at Mar-a-Lago, or a ride on Air Force One, or maybe you'll get some money for your, some program that you've been trying to push through Congress. This is all how politics works. Everybody in Congress knows Donald Trump wants this. He said so. Now, a bunch of them are going to just jump blindly on board, but a couple of them are going to be like, let's see how I can play this to my advantage. So it's going to be interesting to see what happens. All of that is scheduled, of course, for tomorrow, and we will bring you all of the details as they unfold. One of the other things that we're working on, of course, is this whole thing with Ukraine. Ukraine. When is Vladimir Zelensky going to come to the table and sign the minerals agreement and say, let's start, hammering out a deal with Putin? Over the weekend, Russia started to bomb Ukraine and attack Ukraine and intensify its efforts on Ukraine as part of a pressure campaign to say, look, you've got a deal on the table. Why don't you just, let's get a ceasefire done? They're showing again that they are strong. They're showing again that they're stronger than Ukraine. They're showing again that Ukraine needs the help of some foreign country. And in a way, they're trying to push Ukraine toward the United States so that they can end the war. But Vladimir Zelensky's being, what's the word I should use here? Stubborn, I guess we should say. He's being, I guess stubborn. I guess stubborn is the word. Anyway, but there's a couple people out there who are like, look, we gotta get this done. Oh, there was a fake news reporter, incidentally, on Air Force One who asked Donald Trump a dumb question, and Donald Trump called him out on it.
Disrespecting you by attacking Ukraine when you're trying to make peace there? Is President Putin disrespecting you by attacking Ukraine when you're trying to make peace there?
What did he do?
Well, he's attacking Ukraine.
Is he disrespecting me?
Yeah.
Who are you with?
I'm Michael Burnbaum, the Washington Post.
You've lost a lot of credibility. Go ahead. What else?
Is Vladimir Putin disrespecting you by attacking Ukraine? And Donald Trump goes, what did he do? Is Vladimir Putin respecting you? What? How? By attacking Ukraine. Donald Trump goes, dude, you're not even. You got to be kidding. He did talk to Maria Bartiromo though, and he said, look, the problem with Ukraine, a big problem with Ukraine is, well, Joe Biden. And the reason we're in this mess now is because, well, Joe Biden and Vladimir Zelensky was able to pull the wool over Joe Biden's eyes, or at least take advantage of him for so long. And now he doesn't want to give it up.
He was able to, it was like taking candy from a baby, what he did. He's a smart guy, and he's a tough guy. And he took money out of this country under Biden like candy from a baby. It was so easy with that same attitude. And I just don't think he's grateful. We gave him, in my opinion, $350 billion. Europe is in for $100 billion. We gave him $350 billion, and he's talking about the fact that they have fought, and there's a bravery because somebody has to use the weapons. But without those weapons, don't forget, I was the one that gave him the javelins that was able to knock down all the tanks. Obama gave nothing. Look, if I were president, that would have never happened. You wouldn't have had Russia going into Ukraine. You wouldn't have had the whole situation with Hamas and October 7th. It would have never happened because Iran was broke. They had no money. They weren't giving it to Hamas or Hezbollah or anybody else. You would have never had the worst evacuation anyone's ever seen, which is Afghanistan, which was the most embarrassing day in the history of our country. And you know what else you wouldn't have had? You wouldn't have had inflation. We had record-setting inflation under Biden. It was a killer. It's one of the reasons I won the election.
Yeah, and then you've got Lindsey Graham. Lindsey Graham, who is, it's always easy to tell which side of Lindsey's bread the butter's on. Yeah, because he cuts right to the chase. He goes, look, here's the problem with Ukraine. They've got money and we want it. And Vladimir Zelensky's not letting us have it, which is one of the reasons why Lindsey Graham probably turned on Vladimir Zelensky so fast when he stormed out of the White House, or rather when he was tossed out of the White House.
We're trying to integrate our economies. We're trying to make sure that Ukraine has value to the American economy, a win-win situation. They're the richest country in Europe in terms of critical minerals, which is the oil of the 21st century. So doing a deal with Ukraine is beneficial to both countries. It's not extortion. Wouldn't it be nice to be able to do a deal with Ukraine where we can make $500 billion in the critical mineral space for our own economy, give them money, help them develop their resources so they can grow their economy and defend themselves? That's not extortion. That's a good business deal. And to all these Democrats who are worried about this deal, what the hell did you do to deter Russia from invading Ukraine? What did you do after Russia invaded Ukraine? Pretty much nothing. President Trump's going to end this war justly. We should do this critical minerals deal. We should keep arming Ukraine and providing them intelligence until a ceasefire. And we should tell Russia, if you don't engage in ceasefire discussions, we're going to sanction you. We got to put pressure on both sides to get them to the table to end this war. But the minerals deal is a win-win.
Yeah, it's a win-win. And obviously, Lindsey Graham really excited about it. So he's got some kind of stock in something. But that's it. You know, that's where we've still got we've got the continuing resolution and we've got Ukraine, and both of those things have to come to a head sometime this week. Could you imagine if we avert a government shutdown and end the war in Ukraine at the same time? I mean, you want to talk about a news-filled week. Every single day there's something that's going on. Every single day there's something that's happening in this administration, because Donald Trump and his administration never sleep. They continue to work tirelessly. They continue to work tirelessly on the border. In fact, there is a brand new member of ICE that Kristi Noem hired just this past week to make sure that we continue and up our efforts to remove all of these people at the border who shouldn't be there.
Today, we're expanding our team at ICE, and we're going to have an acting director in Todd Lyons, who has a long history with Tom Homan. They have worked together to build on these enforcement operations. We're also naming a deputy secretary in Madison Sheehan that was going to be another expansion of this team. They've done incredible work cleaning up our communities and making them safer. Adding more people to the team with Todd and with Madison is going to allow us to partner with local law enforcement officials to make sure that we truly are following through on enforcing the law. And if you break our law, then there's going to be consequences.
Oh, by the way, speaking of doing an amazing job cleaning up our neighborhoods and making sure that our border is safe and secure and illegal immigrants aren't coming through anymore, and the ones that are here are getting deported, and the Tren de Aragua gang members are headed home to Venezuela. Listen to this. This is, I think it was CBS. This is a CBS reporter. They sent this CBS reporter to the border. Listen to what they found when they got there, or more importantly, what they didn't find.
You spent how long, going along the
About
border?
4 hours.
And how different was this trip versus past trips?
Well, we did not see a single migrant or asylum seeker. And typically, when we go to the U.S.-Mexico border, we at least see one group of people who are trying to cross into the U.S. illegally. We did not see a single migrant. We saw soldiers, Border Patrol agents, and National Guard troops and vehicles and barriers, but no migrants.
No migrants! No asylum seekers! Look at that! No illegals crossing the border! No coyotes trying to bring their loads through the Rio Grande. None of that. We did for 4 hours. 4 hours. This guy walked along the border and he didn't see one single illegal immigrant. He didn't see one single alien trying to gain illegal access to our country. That's unheard of. A year ago, you would have seen thousands and thousands, and the Border Patrol would have just let them in. We have video footage of a group of congressmen, a coalition of congressmen, standing at the border doing a press conference. And if you pan to the right, coming across the water, a family full of illegals. Why was that? Well, because of Joe Biden. Why was that? Well, because Joe Biden just ignored the laws. In fact, Kristi Noem said something along the lines of that. Hold on, I have it right. She said a lot. But Kristi Noem said it along the lines of that. She said, here, I think this is it.
That we have. And even everywhere I've been in this country out there looking at what President Trump has done on immigration and border enforcement, the people that I meet are saying thank you. Thank you for getting these terrorists out of the country. He has deported in just 1 month. Have you deported 22 terrorists? Known and terrorists on the terrorist watch list are out of this country now. We have almost 700 gang members that have been deported out of the country in just a month. And
which have been redefined as foreign terrorist organizations.
Well, 281 specific TDA members, which we know are the worst of the worst, have been taken out of this country. So everyone that has a story like Laken Riley's family or Jocelyn's family, they're extremely grateful that won't be perpetuated amongst other families in other states.
By the way, Margaret Brennan, I don't know why she still shows up for work. I don't know why she still shows up for work. This woman, not only does she get her butt handed to her weekly by Republican men, but now Republican women are doing the same thing. She's saying, look, we're deporting terrorists. Margaret Brennan goes, wait a minute, have you actually? She goes, yeah, 22 of them. Not to mention all the gang members, which Margaret Brennan says, well, those have just been reclassified as terrorists. Okay, people who come into this country and kill young women after doing despicable things to them, yeah, we're going to consider those people terrorists. And if you don't, maybe you're the issue.
I want to ask you, border crossings, they're at a 25-year low.
They are. It's fantastic.
There are 6,000 U.S. military personnel working at the border now. That number could go up to 9,000 by the end of the month. How long do you have to keep them there if the numbers are already dropping like this?
You know, we'll continue the partnership with the Department of Defense, but also we've got partnerships with Commerce, with the Attorney General's office. You know, we're working every day with the Secretary of State. We'll keep them there until that border is completely secure, and we see all-time record lows of encounters. Our Border Patrol is doing fantastic work, but we're going to keep them there till the whole world gets the message that this isn't Joe Biden's world anymore. This is President Donald Trump's country, where we have a border, where we have laws, and it applies equally to everybody. I think that is what is so refreshing, is that we're not picking and choosing winners and losers anymore. Americans have to live by the law. So do those who come to this country. You have to come here legally, or there will be consequences.
Yeah, we're not picking winners and losers anymore. If you come here illegally, you're a loser. If you come here illegally, you've lost. So says Kristi Noem, Homeland Security. And I'll be honest, and Margaret Brennan, she just doesn't let up, this woman. She thinks that she is one of these crack reporters when really she's a reporter that looks like she's smoking crack. This woman has attacked and come at and tried to debate Marco Rubio, Scott Bessent. I mean, everybody has shown up on her show. And JD Vance, oh my God, JD Vance embarrassed her. And here's Kristi Noem doing the same thing. She tried to sneak in a little question about family separation, and Kristi Noem let her have it.
But when it comes to reviving the policy of separating families from their children at the border,
we're actually reviving it.
That's what I want to ask.
President Biden didn't follow the law. He didn't follow the law in the fact that it's always been equally applied until his administration. And then he made decisions to ignore federal law in how he handled immigration and enforcement within our borders. And so today we're expanding our team at ICE, and we're going to have an acting director in Todd Lyons. Yeah, we just heard about that. So she's saying, Margaret Brennan's like, so what about this? What about renewing this family separation thing? No, it's not renewing. That's the law. That's always been the law. What you had was a president who defied the law, ignored the law, chose not to enforce the law, broke the law. You might actually say, let's call it what it is. Joe Biden broke the law. He did not do what he was supposed to do. He did not enforce our immigration laws. He did not protect the border. And he put countless of American lives in danger. And many Americans were killed or attacked or both by illegals that should never have been here. And so Kristi Noem's like, look, we looked at the laws on the books, and the laws on the books say this, so we're going to enforce them that way. And it's the same thing Tom Homan said to AOC. He said, if you are in a car and you're driving drunk and you got kids in the back and the cops pull you over and you blow into the breathalyzer and you're hammered, they're going to take your kids away from you. They're going to take you to jail and your kids are going to go with somebody else. If they get a call that there is a domestic disturbance at your house and they show up and you and your wife or your girlfriend or your boyfriend or whatever are slapping each other silly and somebody's bleeding and there's kids in the house, they're going to remove the kids from that situation. You will be separated from your children. When you break a law coming into this country illegally and you become a criminal, if you have kids with you, fun fact, just like every criminal, you will be separated from your children. It's called enforcing the laws without discrimination. It's called fair is fair. It's called the same punishment for the same crime, whether you're here illegally or not. And it is great to see that we've got Kristi Noem doing a bang-up job, by the way. Doing a bang-up job at the Department of Homeland Security, along with Tom Homan, the border czar, and now the new interim director of ICE. So we're very, very excited about all of those things. And then, of course, that brings us to the tariffs. And the tariffs, I'll tell you, Donald Trump has done something really incredible with Canada. And I think what people don't realize is that the reason that Justin Trudeau resigned, and I know a lot of people are like, he didn't resign, he was thrown, it doesn't matter. Donald Trump belittled and demoralized and poked fun of and was just plain mean to Justin Trudeau to the point where he lost the support of his own party. His own cabinet members started quitting. They were like, look, you can't lead anymore, dude. The world doesn't respect you. The president of the United States called you the governor of the 51st state.
He's going to try to annex Canada, and you're powerless to stop him. He doesn't respect you. Nobody does. Plus, you're crying all the time. You're blubbering like a 2-year-old. This is not the kind of guy we want representing Canada any longer. You've had your shot, but now it's over. So he said, fine, we'll call an election later this year. Well, it came to a head, and his party threw him out. They said, look, you got to go. We're going to hold an election. You need to resign. So over the weekend, Justin Trudeau, the governor of the 51st state of Canada, resigned his governorship, and the Liberal Party, which is still in power, elected a guy named Mark Carney, who is even more liberal, if you can believe it, than Justin Trudeau.
America is not Canada. And Canada never, ever will be part of America in any way, shape, or form. We didn't ask for this fight. We didn't ask for this fight. But Canadians are always ready when someone else drops the gloves. So the Americans, they should make no mistake, in trade as in hockey, Canada will win.
My God, it's so stereotypical to make a hockey reference when you're a Canadian politician. Like, you can't come up with something else. It's always got to be hockey. When someone else drops the gloves, all of a sudden, you throw down the gloves. Come on, let's go. That's his big reference. Look, the fact of the matter is that in Canada, it's the British parliamentary way of choosing leadership. It's not like what happens here in the United States of America. The party chooses the leader. Here, we choose the leader, and then that puts the party in charge. Like, for example, when Donald Trump won the election, the Republicans took charge of the White House, and he started putting Republicans in his cabinet. Well, with the exception of RFK Jr. But he's basically a Republican now. So that's how it works. In Canada, it's different. You elect a party, the Liberals, the Conservatives, whatever, and that party then selects the person that they want to lead them, and that person becomes the prime minister. So just because Justin Trudeau resigned as prime minister, it doesn't mean that his party's out of power. His party is still in the White House. Or, I'm sorry, not in the White House, in power. And so they just voted amongst themselves and picked Mark Carney as the new leader. Now, later this year, there will be a general election. And if Mark Carney wants to remain prime minister, there will have to be a liberal victory. The other party, the Conservative Party, is led by a guy named Pierre Poilievre. And Pierre Poilievre is a little more conservative. He's as conservative as you can be and still be a Canadian. And that is really the big opposition party. Now, Justin Trudeau's horrible leadership throughout COVID, locking down the truckers, the whole Hong Kong movement, when he started, shutting down their bank accounts and taking their licenses, their business licenses, their driver's licenses, when he started taking people's guns away and said, you can't have all these guns. You can trade the existing guns, but you can't buy any new ones. When he totally went off of his rocker and tried to shut down Canada and turn it into a tyrannical dictator state, when that happened, the Conservatives got stronger and stronger and stronger, and Pierre Poilievre became a staunch anti-Trudeau, pro-Trump kind of figure. But when Donald Trump started calling Canada the 51st state and referring to Justin Trudeau as its governor, Canadians got really mad. So the Liberal Party has seen a little bit of a boost in the polling. It'll be interesting to see who wins out. Either way, I don't care. It's still Canada, and I think Donald Trump can take them. But the tariffs are all part of what made this such an issue. Donald Trump is steadfast in his ideals about tariffs. He's steadfast in the notion that tariffs, while there may be short-term pressure or short-term discomfort, there will be long-term gain. And eventually, America will have the more riches than we even know what to do with, kind of like we did beforehand when William McKinley, the tariff king of Chicago, instituted tariffs on all of our trading partners around the globe.
I think the tariffs are going to be the greatest thing we've ever done as a country. It's going to make our country rich again. We have many companies, as you know, auto companies are opening up plants now. We've had 4 or 5 announced already, but many more are coming. And we're basically going to take back the money, a lot of the money that we've given away over many decades. We've lost our jobs. We've lost our factories. We've lost 90,000 factories since the beginning of NAFTA. it's not that long ago, 90,000 factories. Think of that. And we're going to get them back. And they're coming back. And they're coming back in records. Look at what happened with the big chip company, the biggest in the world. By far the most powerful chip company in the world from Taiwan. And they're going in with $200 billion of money, and they're going to build something that's going to give us 35-40% of the chip market in one company. No, it's going to bring it back, and I think it's going to make us bring us to a level that we've never had before.
It's going to bring us to a level that we've never had before. Tariffs are going to be the best thing that has happened to this country, and no liberal Canadian governor is going to make us say otherwise. He'll wheel and deal on the auto industry. He'll wheel and deal with Mexico if they come to the table. He'll wheel and deal with other countries if there's a good, solid plan for America to be treated fairly and not be taken advantage of. But otherwise, you're going to pay up, sucker.
All I know is this: we're going to take in hundreds of billions of dollars in tariffs. And we're going to become so rich, you're not going to know where to spend all that money. I'm telling you, you just watch. We're going to have jobs. We're going to have open factories. It's going to be great.
And it's going to take a little bit of time. But once it gets done, it's going to be incredible. And can Donald Trump replace the income tax with tariffs? Ooh, if he does, that's going to cement him as probably the greatest president of our lifetimes. Howard Lutnick, his commerce secretary, was asked about the economy and the economic issues and when the economy is going to turn around. And he had this to say.
Anybody who bets against Donald Trump, it's like the same people who thought Donald Trump wasn't a winner a year ago. Donald Trump is a winner. He's going to win for the American people. That's just the way it's going to be. There's going to be no recession in America. What there's going to be is global tariffs are going to come down because President Trump has said, you want to charge us 100%? We're going to charge you 100%. And you know what they say? They say, no, don't charge us 100%. We'll bring ours down. We'll unleash America out to the world, grow our economy in a way we've never grown before. You are going to see over the next 2 years the greatest set of growth coming from America as Americans. You saw it, 1.3 trillion of new investment coming in America. Think of all those jobs. And remember, each trillion of investment in America is 1% of growth GDP. So Donald Trump is bringing growth to America. I would never bet on recession. No chance.
Also, the other thing that that's interesting about tariffs and about bringing jobs back to America and reestablishing ourselves as an industrial center and a manufacturing powerhouse is that these jobs. Basically, what happened is America's economy was weakened, and our position as a global economic leader was weakened, and our military, really everything, was weakened by Joe Biden because he was shipping jobs and factories and everything else out of here. And as a result, not only were we getting weaker, but our enemies were getting stronger. So China and Russia and India and all these other countries, they're getting stronger and stronger and stronger because they're stealing from us. It's a scale. There's only so many manufacturing jobs in the world. If they leave the United States, they go somewhere. And if they leave the United States, that other country gets them and gets richer. And then they could use that money to buy more weapons and more submarines and more aircraft and, superior space technology. And they become the superpower, the global superpower. That's why it all comes back down to money. So as we begin to levy tariffs on those countries and we begin to bring those jobs and that manufacturing back to the United States of America, the scale goes up in our favor. We can take that money. We can build out a military. We can build out defense systems. We can invest with our allies. We can basically put a stranglehold and choke the flow of cash going into our enemies, like we did with Iran. Like we can do with Russia and oil and all of the natural gases that they're shipping all over Europe. We can do all of those things, but we need a president who understands how it works. And finally, we have one. Speaking of space, by the way, Maria Bartiromo asked Donald Trump about Mars because, Elon Musk, that dude is not going to go. The only place that guy wants to go is Mars. He's been everywhere else. He's been to Mar-a-Lago. He's been to DC. He's from South Africa. The guy's a world traveler. He wants to go to Mars. And until he gets to Mars, he will not rest. And Donald Trump and Elon Musk, not only are they BFFs, but they're very close and they're bonded. And Maria Bartiromo asked and said, look, is Mars something we're looking at is that something that you're in favor of? Is that something that you're pushing for?
Well, I'm the creator of Space Force. This was before I knew Elon. but I thought it was very important. It turned out to be very important. We were getting killed by Russia and by China, and now we're leading, really leading big in space. And I think from a defensive standpoint, that's true. No, there's a lot of interest in going to Mars. Is it number one on my hit list? No, it's not really. But it is something that would be, you know, it would be a great achievement. It would be a great thing if we could do it.
Okay, so Elon Musk wants to go to Mars. Donald Trump is the commander-in-chief of Space Force. Something tells me that before these 4 years are out, we're going to see Elon Musk as an admiral of some kind of spaceship, Space Force starship built by X, heading an expedition to Mars. I'd never even thought about the Space Force connection there. But Donald Trump, he did realize that we need a Space Force. He did realize that we need some kind of intergalactic protection. Because all of these weapons now that are coming out of China, all of the weapons that are coming out of Russia, everything is going intergalactic. It's no longer intercontinental. They go up into space and they come back down wherever they want to go. You've got things that can use, I mean, they can slingshot these weapons around the earth so quick we don't even know what happens. Not to mention all of the satellite technology and the satellite attacks and things like that could go wrong up in space. Elon Musk, he's already got Starlink satellites floating around up there. He's already got rockets that can take off and land. He's way far ahead of the game when it comes to planning an interplanetary mission to Mars. It's really, I imagine that that's probably going to happen. Well, depending how old you are, within your lifetime. If you're my age, I would say within your lifetime. If you're like 15 to 20 years older than me, maybe not. It doesn't matter. We'll just have to wait. We'll just have to wait and see what happens. Listen, the good news is that they're cleaning up Washington, D.C. The good news is that they're cleaning up Ukraine. The good news is that they've cleaned up the border and they're going to keep it clean. And the good news is that hopefully sometime later this week, we will have some kind of continuing resolution, or maybe not. Maybe we'll have a government shutdown. Either way, I think Donald Trump's got a good grasp on what's happening, and we will, of course, bring you all of the information you need to know, all of the news you need to know as it happens. If you haven't yet subscribed to this channel, do yourself a favor, do me a favor, do both of us a favor, and subscribe to this channel because we bring you content all the time. Over the weekend, I was publishing videos left, right, and center. You never know when we're going to go live. If there's some important piece of news or tidbit, or if Donald Trump launches with some kind of speech, we're going to let you know about it first. But only if you subscribe, only if you set the notifications. And if you're listening to the podcast, make sure that you tell your podcast platform of choice you want more Mark Kaye Saves the Republic. You want Mark Kaye Saves the Republic all the time, delivered instantly to your phone so that you can just click a button and hear everything you need to know to keep yourself informed, to keep yourself entertained, to keep yourself inspired, to keep yourself enlightened, to keep yourself well-equipped and well-armed, and to keep those weapons sharp. Because you never know when the next attack's going to come at you. You need to be prepared to fight so we can save the Republic. All right, listen, we're going to have an after party at the Kaye Club. If you're not a member of the Kaye Club, it's really easy to join. All you have to do is go to kayetriots.com, join our locals community, become a supporter. It's only $10 a month. That's really nothing. $10 a month gets you a supporter position in the Kaye Club, and you can then join us for the after party, which is just like what we did now, but like a little more. You get extra. You get a bonus, if you will. Plus, there's stickers. There's a 25% off coupon code for the Mark Kaye shop. There's so many great reasons to join the Kaye Club. And if you would like to join the Kaye Club, now's a great time because the after party begins in 3 minutes.